This is lesson 5.1D on converting fractions to percents. You will need pages 13 through 15. So remember that a percent means out of 100. So there are several methods to convert a a fraction into a percent. Method 1 is to scale up or scale down to make the fraction with a denominator of 100. So for example, if you have 16/25, you can make this fraction out of 100. So to do that, since 25 times 4 is 100, then you would multiply the numerator by 4 as well. So 16 times 4 is 64. So as a percent, 16 out of 25 would be 64%. Method 2 would be to write the fraction as a decimal using long division. And then once you convert the fraction to a decimal, you would convert it to a percent by moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So for example, if you have 5/8, you divide 5 by 8. So 5 goes inside your division house and then 8 goes on the outside. So since 8 doesn't go into 5 evenly, you need to add a decimal point, then bring it up. Okay, so 8 goes into 50 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. Then 50 minus 48 would be 2. Since 8 doesn't go into 2 evenly, you have to add another 0, bring it down. So 8 goes into 20 now 2 times. 2 times 8 would be 16. And then 20 minus 16 is 4. So you add another 0, you bring it down. And then 8 goes into 45 times. So you get 0.625. However, that's just a decimal. Now what you have to do is move the decimal point over 2 places to the right, and you get 62.5%. Okay, so in example 1, it says to convert the decimal that you have into a percent, then a fraction, and then draw a bar model for it. So if you have 0.5, you can move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and that would give you 50%. As a fraction, 50.5 is 5/10. So you can reduce 5/10 by dividing the numerator and denominator by 5, and you get 1/2. So you want to draw a rectangular bar model, and then you're only going to shade in half of the bar model. So notice how in my drawing, I split my bar model in half and only shaded in half of it. Now in number 2, the bar model is drawn for you, but the fraction, decimal, and percent are not. So notice how both of these regions are shaded in. So that means 2 out of the 2 regions are shaded in. So that's why as my fraction, that would be 2 out of 2, which is 1 whole. Now 1 whole as a decimal is 1.0. And then to convert the decimal into a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right and you get 100%. Okay, so in example 3, you have another bar model, and you have 1, 2, 3 out of the 5 total regions shaded in. So this would be 3 out of 5. Now as a decimal, we would have to divide the numerator by denominator. So numerator goes inside your division house, and then 5 on the outside. Since 5 doesn't go into 3 evenly, you add a decimal point and add a 0. 5 goes into 36 times. 6 times 5 would be 30. So that means that you would have 0.6. Now to convert 0.6 into a percent, you would move the decimal 2 places to the right. So this would be 60%. Okay, in example number 4, you're given the fraction of 1/5. So to sketch your bar model, sketch a rectangle, and you want to break this up into 5 parts. So the denominator tells you how many total parts you have, and the numerator tells you how many of those parts are shaded in. So since only 1/5 is shaded in, one out of those 5 pieces are the ones that you're going to shade in. As a decimal 1/5, you have to use long division. So divide 1 by 5. 5 doesn't go into 1 evenly, so you add a decimal point, add a 0. So 5 goes into 10 twice. 2 times 5 would be 10. So that means that 1/5 would be 0.2. Now to convert this to a percent, you take your decimal point and move it to the right twice, and you're going to get 20%. In example 5, you have 2 parts shaded in out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 2 out of 8 parts shaded in, which if you divide the numerator and denominator by 2, you get 1/4. So now you want to convert the fraction into a decimal, so divide 1 by 4. 4 goes in, doesn't go into 1 evenly, so you add a decimal point, add a 0. 4 goes into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Your remainder of 2. Add another 0, bring it down. 4 goes into 25 times. So that means that 1/4 is 0.25. Now as a percent, you would move the decimal 2 places to the right, and that would be 25%. For number 6, you have 7/8. So draw your bar model. So draw a rectangle, and you want to break it up into 8 parts. So I'm going to split this in half, and then each half in half again, and each half in half as well. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces, and I want to shade in 7 of those pieces. 7 out of the 8 pieces I shade in. Okay, so that would be the equivalent of 7/8 as a bar model. Now you want to convert 7/8 into a decimal. So 7 goes inside your division house. 8 goes on the outside. 8 doesn't go into 7 evenly, so you need to add a decimal point, add a 0. 8 goes into 70 6 times. 6 times 8 is, nope, not. 8 goes into 78 times. 8 times 8 is 64. Your remainder of 6. Add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 60. 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Your remainder of 4. Add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 45 times. So you get 0.875. And now to convert that into a percent, you move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and you get 87.5%. Okay, number 7 is the bar model is a little bit different. So notice how you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces out of a total of 10 little regions. So this would be 8 out of 10. And if you divide by 2, you get 4/5. And if you notice vertically, you actually have 4 vertical pieces out of 5 vertical pieces shaded in. So that's a way you can see if you simplified correctly. So now to convert 4/5 into a decimal, divide 4 by 5. 5 doesn't go into 4 evenly, so add a decimal point, add a 0. 5 goes into 48 times. So this would be 4/5 would be 0.8. Now to convert 0.8 into a percent, you move the decimal point 2 places to the right and you get 80%. Okay, number 8, you have 0.3. So 0.3 is actually 3/10. So as a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right, and that would be 30%. So what you want to do is draw a bar model, and I would break it into fifths first, and then horizontally in half, and I have 10 parts, and I want to shade in 3 out of the 10 parts. So this bar model shows 3/10. Go ahead and try examples 9 and 10. Pause the video, and then when you're ready, resume the video to check your work.